Hello. Hi, y'all. So, if you miss this chat, be sure to still go to the comments and ask questions or make comment or whatever you want to do, and I'll be able to see those later. All right, and respond accordingly. So today I want to talk to you real quick about something that I've been researching more. So as I was putting my evaluation model together years ago, one of the areas that I went into was language. Okay. I went in to see how people are taught languages, how that's evaluated, what the various methods are, what do they evaluate when they want to know whether or not you're learning a language. And one of the things that I found when I did that was the very distinct difference between performance and proficiency. Okay, where performance is so I took Spanish for 6 years, A's in every single class. Every test I got an A, all of that stuff. You drop me off in Mexico or Spain or somewhere where they speak Spanish, I will be lost in the sauce because I can't speak it like that, right? Even though all those years I took Spanish because I was taught how to perform, right? In a controlled environment, in a classroom, I was taught to pass the test, basically. I was not taught how to actually speak the language, in a way that would be useful for me outside of passing a test. Okay. Let me fix this a little bit. So that's performance, right? Now, proficiency is me being able to speak Spanish wherever I am. If I'm in the classroom, if I'm in downtown Mexico, if I'm in some other place, where they're speaking fluently, I'm just able to do it whatever the environment, right? Because I'm proficient in this area, right? And I can, not just can I do it in any environment, I can speak in other than simple situations. Like I can say more than agua or que ores or something like that, right? I can actually have a conversation with you, and I can use it in complex situations. So that's one of the things that I learned. So another thing that I realized, while I was doing this is how, like, what that's called, right? What is it called when you're actually in a learning situation where you're actually in that situation? You're not just being told about it, right? You're not just being told what the rules are of the language and and how to use it, like the grammar, right? You're not just being told that. So that's actually called the direct method. Okay, so, or the natural method. That's another way to think of it: direct method or natural method. Now, I'm talking about language here, but we're going to apply that to other kinds of learning. So the direct method, there can be no translation. So if you're in a class or some other learning, event experience to learn a new language, all they're speaking is that language. You are fully immersed in that language. Okay, you're being spoken to in that language. The materials you're reading are in that language. You have to reply in that language. So think about the way you learn to speak English. How did you learn to speak English? That's the direct method. That's it. That's how you learn. You didn't learn grammar rules before you learned how to speak English, right? You just listened to the people around you. With my kids, when I was, as they were growing up, I would have something in my hand and I would say pen, pen, and I would show this to them, right? That's how they learn. They would hear me talking. I would applaud them and, give them treats or whatever if they said a word correctly, all that stuff, right? So the rules and stuff did not come first, which is what we tend to do in a lot of our learning and development. Let me tell you, I evaluated this program, and out of the evaluation, I could clearly see that the thing that was valued the most was the curriculum, right? And I even created a what is that called? Like a scatter diagram, like with all the different circles, right? The biggest circle was the curriculum, because that's what drove everything. It wasn't me, the learner, it wasn't, what I needed to do, my tasks or anything like that. It was the curriculum, right? And which is the total opposite of which is like when I went to Spanish class, right? The curriculum drove it. Okay. The curriculum said, this is what it is. This is the feminine. This is the masculine. These are the rules. This is how you use usted, when you use it. This is how to do, so that method is actually called, I wrote it here, the grammar translation method. Okay. That's what it's actually called when you put the rules ahead of everything else. And that's fine. That is totally appropriate when you're talking about a dead language. When you're talking about something dead, start with the rules. Do that. Okay. Start with that. And I talked about this in another one of my videos too. Y'all remember when I said how evaluations, they sound like eulogies, right? When you read them, like you're talking about something dead. That's exactly why, right? Because we're putting the rules of critical thinking above actually doing it. We're putting the rules and the rules of leading people above actually doing it. Okay, so that's why it sounds like you're reading a eulogy when you're reading the evaluation report. So let me see what else I have here. All right, so the direct method, right? I had a conversation with one of my former colleagues about creating a training event or course for leaders on, I think the topic was flexibility. And I said, one way to design it, one part of the design is to have the leaders come into the classroom or wherever it's going to be, and don't provide any chairs. Here you have leaders with expectations now, because listen, we coddle these leaders so much when they go to our courses, don't we? Don't we coddle them? We want them to be comfortable. We want to get those good reaction scores and all this other kind of stuff, right? Listen, if the training is on flexibility, you being able to be flexible and pivot in times when things just don't work out the way you think they work out. When you come into the classroom or wherever this event is taking place, take the chairs out. Okay, now you actually have to use those competencies, right? And can you? This is a perfect, how do you react when you go somewhere and you expect it to be one way and it isn't? I can tell you how I've reacted, in the recent past. Let me tell you that, right? I've been telling people I have had to use competencies I never had to use, before. And that's what you have to do. You have to first recognize, oh man, like this is really an area. So I'm going to this place. They don't have anywhere to sit. What's the first thing I'm going to do? How am I going to draw on the competencies that I have? What am I going to recognize as something that I don't have? Like, am I still able to move forward with this? Am I upset? Am I mad? Am I blaming somebody? Am I like, and the class is going on. I told her, I said, no chairs, but you're still up there and you're giving the course, and they just gonna have to do whatever they have to do to be able to give this information, right? Now they're being immersed, right? Now they have to use those competencies. They have to be flexible and see ways where they actually aren't flexible, instead of having them go in, sit down, be as comfortable as possible, and talk to them about what flexibility is. Do you see what I'm saying? You see the difference between those two things? So it's very possible for us to look at the direct method, the way they do it in language, and apply that to your critical thinking course, your oral communication course, your written communication course, all of this stuff. It is very possible. And that actually goes with something else. I haven't made a video about this, but I will. I posted it on my LinkedIn page, though. This speaks very well to reality pedagogy, all right, which is I'm going to talk about that too in a different video. But it's really about being real, like not learner-centered, like be centered on reality. What is going on? What needs to go on? What kind of context do these people they're going to do the learning themselves. Okay. So you as the instructor, facilitator, whatever you're calling yourself, teacher, you are, even though you want to be, you're not responsible for the learning. There's nothing you can do about the learning. You can teach all day long. You can facilitate till the cows come home, but it's up to the learner, right, to actually learn the material and to learn the practices, to learn how to do the thinking. It's up to the learner to do that. You know, we want so bad to take accountability away from the learner and do that for them, but we can't. Okay, so let's just stop it. We can't. Now, so there's a book by Greg Good. He's one of my Facebook friends. He's an amazing person too. I don't know if you all have heard of him, but you should. Well, now you've heard of him. He has a book called The Direct Path. And that book it's like what I'm talking about here, right? So it's about, you know, finding out who you really are, you know, discovering your true self and, you know, enlightenment and things like that. But what he says in the book is like, okay, so we're not just going to talk about this thing called enlightenment. You know, we're not just going to talk about, you know, what it's like, when it happens, how it is, whatever. Just do it. You know, so he has these various exercises in the book that has you see for yourself. We're not going to talk about it. You're just going to have to be about it, basically. Right. So do this stuff and see for yourself. All right. It's the same thing I'm talking about here. The same kinds of things that we can do in our, and I put classroom in parentheses in the title because the classroom is anything, right? It doesn't have to be a formal place with desks and a whiteboard, and you know, classroom can be on the job, like wherever learning is happening, okay, or wherever you are designing learning to happen, that it can be the classroom. The classroom can be in your house, right, in the kitchen with you and your children, right, or you and your spouse or parent or whatever, right, wherever learning is happening, whether it's deliberate or not, okay. So in the classroom, for those experiences that we want to design, okay, we can design context in it so that individuals are learning through the direct method, right? They're actually now listen, engagement is not a problem with direct method. It's not. I promise you it's not a problem with direct method, okay? So that wouldn't even, and the way that you evaluate it would be different as well, right? You would go more towards the, so we have knowledge, skills, and abilities right now, right? Those are the things that we look at to see, you know, if people are, you know, getting the knowledge, integrating it and all that stuff, right? But there's also knowledge, attitude, and practice, right? You have CAPs, which is knowledge, and then the attitude, are you willing to do this thing? And did you do it? Not just are you willing to do it, because we're good for that. We're good for asking, are you going to go back and use it? Are you going to do this thing? Tell me how you think you're going to do this thing. How do you think you're going to be able to behave? You know, and we're satisfied with that. And we're off to the races to talk about how wonderful our program was because somebody said, yeah, I think I might be able to do this when I get back to work. Okay. So we're not going to do that. With knowledge, attitude, and practice, the attitude is, okay, are you willing to do this? Now, did you do it? Okay. And the practice is exactly, what are you doing? Right? What are you doing right now? And we can build those kind of things into the logic model. So it's because one thing I said with the new evaluation model is that evaluation is not hard. It doesn't take hundreds of thousands of dollars and all this other kind of stuff. It's not, because it's happening already. The problem is we're looking for the wrong things, right? We're not looking for the valuable information. And that's called, and I talk a little bit about that when I talk about knowledge risk and knowledge failure. But that's dark data. In the information world, that's called dark data, right? There's a lot of stuff going on in learning and development that we know nothing about because it's dark data. We're ignoring what's there because we're not asking the right questions. We're not looking for the right things, okay? And And we don't have to do that. There's another way to do it. I keep saying this all the time, I know, but there are different ways to do it. There's other ways to do these things. Okay, so that's the talk on the direct method. And I'm gonna talk more about knowledge, attitude, and practice in another video. And I do want to address dark data again in more detail. Yeah, somebody's at my door. All right, so I'm going to end this video. Again, like and subscribe, and please share the link if you find it interesting. Okay. All right. Bye.